everyone, welcome to the second part of the sorry, I'm laughing, there's a fly in here, it keeps flying over the book. The second part of this video from Minimania by Gabi Wolf. Now, we did the first half in yesterday's video, so you might want to pop back and watch that if you haven't, especially if you're colouring along, because you might want to do this bit first. And we're using Chromaflow, Derwent Chromaflow pencils. So I think I might just continue with the greenery at the bottom here, and then we'll work through some more of the details. Whoop, let's move the book up a little bit and come in closer. We've got these larger leaves. Oops, there we go. So we've got these larger leaves and the grass and things like that, so we'll do that. Now I think these could be quite dark because it's sort of framing our scene, I suppose. Yeah, I might use the obsidian green. This is a really dark green for part of it. Let's give it a sharpen. Let's have a look at the shape. We've got a sort of spine bit vein or something down the middle, so I think I'm going to colour to the side of that, and then sort of fade out a bit here, and we'll get some other colours in here afterwards. I don't really know what to do with those dots. I'm just going to colour around them at the moment while I'm thinking. So I hope everyone's well today. I've just realised by the way I've been recording and planning, I haven't left a space in my end of August schedule or my beginning of September schedule for my completed pages video. So that may have to slot in as a little added extra, potentially. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. I might have to rejig things a bit, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm going to do the same over here with this one. Yeah, I mean, I haven't made the video yet. It's a bit early. Oh, I've just remembered I'm supposed to be making a phone call. Oh, I'm just going to make myself a note to do it. You can hear me scribbling. Yeah, it's I need to get my house alarm serviced. I don't really know why we bother, to be honest, using it. It's all fine round here, you know, but we got one, and there you go. But still. Okay, that's all I'm doing with the obsidian green. I'm now going to use, yes, I think I'm going to use the pine green. It's quite a bluey green. It's rather nice, pine green. And I'm going to go over all of it apart from the line and the dots. Yeah, that's nice. There we go. I've just been out. Well, I've been back a while and having a drink. Coffee, a cold iced coffee actually. It wasn't that hot. It was a bit close, a bit muggy, not too much, a little bit. So it was nice to have a cool drink when I got in anyway. And yeah, I had to go and drop a bag full of things off at the charity shops. That was nice. Always feels good to get rid of a few things. I've got quite a few things to pop in the dustbin tomorrow as well, if I've got room. I'm not sure if I've got room. Throwing away too much lately. And yes, it's all very cathartic, I always find. And yeah, so I did that, dropped a few things off at the charity shop. I had to buy my boys some shower gel. It's very exciting, very exciting. And then I had a browse in a couple of places. I went into the shopping centre to look in Peacocks to see if they'd had any possible t-shirts for my son, because he could do with a couple more, because I can't keep up with the ironing and washing all the time. He's always saying, "Oh Mum, I've got another top, I've run out." He's got 5. And so I went to see if they had any more. This line really next to the centre, I'm just going to do it, but not see if they had any more, see if they had any. But they had no long sleeve men's tops, t-shirts, only sort of jumpers and things. That's not what he wants. He wants a t-shirt. Unfortunately, the place I got them from isn't selling them at the moment. I suspect they might come back in September because long sleeves, a bit wintry, you know. I'm going to use the pastel mint now to just finish off the vein and the dots, I think. I might just sort of go over the whole thing, blend it up, tidy it up a bit, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I had a quick wander there. I took advantage of the fact no one's here, so I was on my own, so I could just wander. It's a very interesting exercise that I've got this week in my mindfulness course that I was giving some thought to as I was walking on my own. And it was, think back to a time in your life when you were really happy and relaxed, and try to bring something from that time to your life now. I thought, ooh, that's a really, really, really interesting exercise. So I was trying to think now. I always think back that one of my more relaxing times was when I was away at university. This is the grass green. I'm going to do all these strands, but I'm going to fade it off a bit and do a slightly lighter top, I think. I need to sharpen up. So I think the reasons for me being relaxed, I suppose the reasons aren't important to what the exercise, but the reasons were because I was on my own, I had myself to please. You know, there wasn't all stress-free, my goodness, no. I had times when I was lonely. I had times when my flatmates were being a bit of a nuisance. I can understand why, because I wasn't the best behaved. But, you know, it created stress for me at the time. You know, there was noisiness in the halls of residence, and it was cold. But you know, just having myself to please, I could get up whenever I wanted, do what I wanted. I could turn up to class or not without anyone knowing I always did. I'm a goody two-shoes, I always turned up to class. But, you know, nobody was there to check. I could cook what I wanted, when I wanted, buy what I wanted from the shop. I mean, within reason, I didn't have millions of pounds. Obviously, students don't. Still don't, actually. Can you imagine? I'm going to use the lemon lime for the tips of the grass. I'm really liking this sort of light yellowy colours that we've been using, so I'm going to use the lemon lime. It doesn't really, on my camera screen, it looks really quite dark, so I don't know if it's looking quite right, but it's looking quite bright and cheery in real. Yeah. Oh, I like that. It doesn't look like grass, but so what? So I was thinking, what did I used to do there that I could do this week? And I was thinking, well, I used to, on a weekend, I would go out for a walk and find a green space. I don't think I really need to do that. You know, a new green, I'd get out my big map and I would have a look at what I'm going to do with the grass on the ground. Is I'm going to go back to the grass green and do a light layer, and then I'm going to do a light layer of the lemon lime on top, so we've got a bit of a mix of these two colours. I think it might look nice. So I'm sort of doing it in a rounded colour ring technique rather than up and down. I don't want to put in the blades of grass because we've got these sort of bushy areas drawn on, so I'm going to make it look more like a sort of bushy grass. I don't know whether that is making any sense, but never mind. So yeah, I would get out my big atlas street map type thing, and I would look on it for a green area, and then I'd go off and find it. Sometimes it was a kids' play area, and I didn't know this, and it would just be concrete. It wouldn't be green at all. It would just be a park, but it was a park with just tarmac and swings or something like that. I'd be like, oh. And but I went to Queen's Park, Kelvin Grove Park, There's a place called Pollock Park, I think it's called that. Lots of little areas. I've explored all these different places. It was a lot of fun, but I don't think I haven't got a street map of my local area to go and do that. I know where the green spaces are anyway, pretty much. So I got to think of something else, and I'm not really sure. I mean, going out for a walk on my own, which I just did, was a bit like what I did, but I do that anyway. Lemon lime. I think the point of it is to try and do lemon lime. Is to try and do something a little bit different. Now I was thinking, you know, I didn't have a mobile phone. Maybe I should go a day without one. Oh! And so when I used to go to bed, I would read, or actually I would. That's true. I would visualize. I would get out my. I used to have what's called a night book, something put together by a guy called Jack Black, whose visualizations I used to use a lot. His techniques, and in the night book you write things you want to achieve, goals. It's a goal setting thing, and then you look at it before you go to bed, so that your brain is thinking about these things that you want before you go to bed. And then when you wake up, maybe your brain's working on it when you're asleep. You know, it's that sort of thought that it keeps cementing the goal in your head. The theory behind it is that when you listen to, say, an Olympian being interviewed, I'm going to do these stones next. I'm just trying to find a colour that I like. I think I'm going to use the Winter Lake. I quite like the idea of just doing a grey. Winter Lake. So, yes, because if you listen to an Olympian, for example, and they're interviewed after a race, and someone say, "Oh, how do you feel?" and they'd be like, "I dreamt of this my whole life," or someone who gets an Oscar or a Grammy or something, they might say a similar thing. And his thought is, they have been imagining getting that, or wishing for it for their whole life. So they've been working towards it. It's been their goal, And so his thing is, if you write down your goal, writing down goals, there's a lot of research showing that if it's written down, it's more likely to happen. So if you write down your goal and then you remind yourself of it every night before you go to bed and in the morning, there's a morning factor as well. I'm going to do these mushrooms, but I'm going to just come out a tad so we can see all of them. Yeah, that's all of them. And I'm going to do the bases in a light grey. I'm just picking one. I think the moon rock is quite a cool colour. We'll see if it's dark enough. Go moon rock. Yeah, so the idea is that you look at it all the time, morning and night, in your night book. You grab it out, you look at it, you read through your goals, and that helps them to occur. And it's an interesting thing to try. Now, I used to do it all the time, and I did achieve quite a few of the things that I wanted to. I think to some extent there's a desirability factor. I don't know if that's quite the right way to explain it. So if it's something that you don't genuinely desire, are really prepared to work hard for, then maybe it's not going to come, even if you keep wishing and imagining, But if it's something you genuinely really, really, really want, then yeah, that is a way you can achieve it in his theory. And as I say, it worked for me on quite a few occasions. Right, the tops of our mushrooms, I'd quite like a sort of orangey red. I'm thinking cardinal red. Oh, there we go. Cardinal red. And I think I'm just going to put down quite a flat colour, if that makes sense. Just colour it in and see how it looks. I'm not going to put down layers and layers, just a layer to see how it looks, and then I'll decide whether I want to put some darker colour on. I'm going to carefully go around these spots because I want them to remain white, but you know, a white pen can always help us out here if we go over the lines. Or me, you probably won't, just me. So yeah, maybe that's something I should have a look into. Maybe I should, I've still got my night book, maybe I should get it out, have a little look through it. Be interesting. I know I had this, you're supposed to draw a picture of your goal. And one of my goals was to have a boyfriend, and I drew a picture. Now, I wanted a dark-haired boyfriend, but I didn't have the right coloured pencil. Can you imagine not having many coloured pencils? No, nor me. Anyway, so I had to draw his hair in blonde in my picture, and I can't draw very well, but when I first met my husband, he had blonde hair. He's now quite white, like me, and yeah, so it wasn't brown, it was blonde, and he was wearing a green shirt, and in the picture I'd drawn him with a green top on. I'd also drawn me in the picture with a white top on. I don't know how I did my hair. I don't know. Anyway, maybe I did myself in blonde too. I've never been blonde. And I did myself in a blue top. When we first met, I was wearing a blue top. Yes, of course, coincidence it could very well be. But yeah, happy coincidence if it was, you know. And I think these days you might call it manifesting. You know, people call it that, have that word. And I assume it means they're trying to imagine or bring things to themselves from the universe type thing. I assume that's what it means, which is the same sort of thing. Sort of wishing and wanting and getting type thing. It is interesting because part of mindfulness is about being kind to others. And I think sometimes when we're visualizing and manifesting, we're not always thinking of others as well. But I think that's not always the case. I think some people think, oh, if you're just wanting goals for yourself, you're being greedy. And I think that isn't always the case at all. You know, if you just want to have a nice relationship with someone, I don't think that's greedy. If you want to be financially secure, I think that's okay. If you want to have a good job, why not? You know, I'm a believer that there could be enough good jobs to go around if we all work together at it. So maybe I'm being very naive. I don't know. There we go. Now we have a ladybird here, which I'm going to do while I've got my reds, but I'm going to use a more pinky red rather than an orangey red, so it looks a little different. So I'm going to use the pompeian red. I just heard a door slam really loudly. Okay, so here is our pompeian red. Whoop, there it is. Very far away. But yeah, maybe that is something for me to look at my night book and have a think about the things that I used to want to do. My ambitions now are much more simple. I've often wanted to be able to earn enough money so that my husband didn't have to. But now I actually realise that for him, his job isn't necessarily about earning the money. It's about being helpful and useful. I'm going to use the pebble for the, where are you, pebble? There, for the ladybird's legs and head. I don't know whether it's going to look a bit odd. I usually do them in black, but I just want something a bit lighter. So many ladybirds around at the moment. But my husband, although he gets stressed at work, that's a bit too light. I'm going to use the slate grey on top. He when he's been at work and he's managed to do something really useful that's helped a lot of people, he feels very pleased with himself. It gives him self-esteem. And I think if he wasn't working, he would really struggle with that, you know. I'm also going to use the window frames. I was wondering about using the slate grey for the window frames. I think I might. Yeah, so I think if he couldn't help people like that, he would find it difficult. Now, I have had people say to me, well, he could get a job in a charity shop or volunteer for a charity to help people. But for him, that isn't enough. In his job, he works for a huge company who have lots of employees, like thousands. And sometimes something he does can help all of them. And it can also have a far further reaching impact as well, because of the nature of what the company does. So he doesn't feel that anything else he could do would be able to reach as many people. But of course, when it does impact that many people, it can lead to it being stressful. But he's working on it. He's actually started listening to some of the mindfulness meditations, and he says they've been helping. So, and I have noticed a huge change in him in this week. Now, he says it's because he had an all clear from some hospital tests, but I am not convinced that is the only reason. But we'll find out how long it lasts, or whether it's a permanent change, and it'll be interesting to see. Really? Now, is that all of them? Yeah, we do have these handles though. Of course, I'm just looking, the boxes are all different styles, and they could actually all be different colours, but they're not, because that's not how I've done them. Right, the windows. We need some light coming through the window. I think quite a warm yellow. I am just going to look at my swatch chart. I'm drawn to the sunflower. The amber's a bit too orangey. Yeah, let's go for the sunflower. Is that it? Nope. I can't seem to find it. There it is. Sunflower. And now we've got curtains at the window, so we're doing a little bit underneath here on all of them. But I'm also finding the mindfulness course very, very good. It hasn't stopped me getting stressed, but it has given me times when I felt really calm, mellow, relaxed, etc., which is something that I haven't had for quite a while. So that's rather nice. I've just noticed that at the very base of this tree, there's a few bits of greenery. So I'm going to put those in before I forget, because that's the sort of thing that I would miss. I'm just having a look at some colours. I think I'm going to use the cactus. I'm only going to use the one colour, cactus, because it's such a small little area. There we go. Okay. Now I'm contemplating an idea for the sort of clasps, handles and things. I'm going to do the snail. Can you see the snail? Let's come in a bit closer. Mr. Snail. Let's do him. So I'm thinking a sort of reddish brown shell. let's go for the brown sugar. I like that colour. So this is the brown sugar, and I'll just go across here. Like that. And then I'm going to sharpen the pencil and make this bit against the line a bit darker here and around. And then a bit around the edge as well. There we go. And then the snail itself, I think I'm going to use the basalt grey. Oh, turning my pencil case the wrong way. Chink. Where are you? Basalt grey. And this is quite a dark colour, so I'm going to be a little careful with it to start it slowly and build up. I wanted a nice deep colour, but I don't want him looking so dark that, you know, the rest of the picture fades back. So I'm putting a darker bit under the shell and under the bottom where there might be more shadow. There he is. And I'm struggling to think of a curtain colour. And they're curtains. Usually just white. But I don't want to do them just white, so I'm wondering, I thought if I do them grey, and then I thought no, they're going to look dirty. So maybe the rose pink would be a good colour for them. Some of the pinks look a little bit like a dirty pink, so rose pink, so I've got this one here. Now I know I've left this bit, I think there's got to be a bit of the wood. There's the rose pink. It clashes a bit with the yellow. Probably should have done blue. Never mind. There we go. Right, now I'm going to go back up to the top and I'm going to do this clasp. I have decided what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to use, whoops, the silver pencil. The actual metallic silver. I thought it might be good. So I'm going to use quite a thick layer on the side here and that side there. Then here I'm going to make a shine effect even though I'm using a silver pencil, like that. There we go. And we'll do the similar thing on this little lock. So darker down here on the side and then a sort of shine, so reduce. More layers here and reduce like that. Now, oh, we haven't got one on that box, but we've got this one. Again, I'm going to do it quite dark down the side. It's got the US Open coming up in the tennis world for all you tennis fans. I don't know who is. And it's quite exciting. But they've mixed up the doubles and a lot of people are a bit cross about it, in the fact that the mixed doubles is sort of invitation only, and they're made out of pairs of singles players rather than specialist doubles players. If you don't know much about tennis, it might not really mean much, but what it means is that you have people who play only doubles and they sort of rely on the money from doubles to keep them going, and the big tournaments like the US Open pay out a lot of money. I'm going to do the handles in this too, and but because they've made it invitation only and they've offered it to singles players to have a go instead, it means that the doubles players don't get an opportunity to make money on that particular tournament, and a lot of people are saying it's unfair. However, doubles is unpopular with viewers. I don't really understand why, because I think it's much better, but you know. And so I think what they're trying to do is put big names in to raise the popularity. So it's a difficult one. A lot of people think the US Open have just done it to make more money, and that's bad. And I think, well, I don't know. If they make more money, they can give away more prize money, even to those that aren't so good. So maybe that's okay. I'm just not sure, really. I'm not sure where I stand on this one. Now, this little guy here we're doing next. And I'm going to do... I think what I'm going to do is show them all on screen at the same time. Do all of them in at the same time. Well, not the same time. I'd need 4 hands, but you know what I mean. In it out. There we go. So the first thing is the insides of the ears, and I'm going to go back to my rose pink that I used for the curtains to do the ear. I'm going to press a bit harder though, or layer it up a bit more so it really shows up. Now I always like these little rabbits, I think they are, to be white, but there is a little trick when you're colouring something white, and that is by not colouring it in white. Can you see this little guy? You want to put a little bit of shadow around it so that it doesn't look totally white. And what we do for that is use a sort of cold grey. And I think the Oxford grey is going to be our friend here. Now it's still a darkish grey, so we need to be a little careful. I'm sharpening it. Because we don't want to put too much down or else it's going to look too dark and it won't look white. So what we do, Oxford grey, is to try not to have hiccups. Is to think about where it'd be darker. So at the bottom of the face here. And then just put less as you go up the little head area like that. And then also with the ear, it'll be darker nearer there at the sort of lower bits. There are the hands. So we've coloured it a bit, but not enough. Hopefully it still looks white. And this little guy, we can see his tongue. Got his little mouth open, shouting away. What's he shouting away? You think? Little feet as well. Maybe he's talking to the ladybird. But I'm going to do the tongue in rose pink. Whoops. There you go. So the colour of the ear. Like that. Then this little one, got a little bit on the neck. And again, for this one, we're sort of building up the layers at the bottom. And then this up, we can do a little bit at the bottom of the ears as well. Bottom of the hands. Bottom of the feet. We've got the one at the bottom here, same again, bit at the bottom of the feet, bit at the bottom of this hand. Can hear some banging. Very old. Like that, and a little bit on that side of the ear. Okay, now we've got their clothes. Let's have a look. Got a nice turquoise green. I'm going to do something in that. Maybe this person's jumper or top, turquoise green. It's quite a bright colour for a top, isn't it? Sort of teal. There we go. Now this guy, I think denim blue trousers. We do have a denim, don't we? Yeah. Here we go, denim. Like that. And t-shirt. Well, it could be a girl. We could do pink. Let's go for this orchid. this one. We could go for a green trouser. Let's use the green meadow. It's quite a pale green. Well, minty green, I would say. And then top. What colour goes with this? What colour? Blue and green should never be seen. Maybe, what about a brownish colour, greyish? What about biscotti? Let's go for a biscotti. Biscotti. I have to make sure that stands out a bit more from the background when we do the rest of the box. Now our person down here, I'm thinking of a sort of redwood trouser, sort of browny orange. Oh, that's quite a nice trouser. Make these turnips darker. What colour top? Yellowy orange maybe. Oh, let's use the Dijon. It's more of a mustardy, sandy colour, isn't it? But I think it'll work just fine. There it is. Now we have a lamp. I'm thinking we could just do it blackish or really dark. We've got the slate grey here. Yeah, I'm going to use the slate grey. And I'm just going to make it dark on the edge, lighter towards the middle. So it looks a bit like it's shiny paint or whatever, dark metal. And I can't decide whether it's on or off. I think it's off. I'm going to use I want the right colour of grey, that's it, Winter Lake, to put a few stripes across it to make it look like there's glass on it that's shiny. There we go. Now we have the worm. Worm I'm going to do in Turkish Delight, I think, and Ash Rose. So sharpen your Turkish Delight. Here it is, Turkish Delight. Put this at the bottom of worm and then sort of fade it up, trying to avoid the eyes. And then get the Ash Rose and go over all of it. Oh, here we go. Ash Rose. Could have come in a bit closer for worm, but never mind. I've got to do this wooden box and finish it off, so I need you to be able to see it all. And the door. What colour's the door? Is it blue or is it red? I think we've got so much red with our toadstools, we'll grab a blue. I rather like that one. Where's that? Yes, the blue orchid. Ooh, clonk clonk. That's what I'm going to use, the blue orchid. Isn't the darkest of blues, but I think it's just a really pretty shade and it goes nicely with the grey. There we go. we have the boxes and we want some darker browns. So I am going to grab a, what colour is that? Let me check my swatch chart. A mocha. Okay, give it a sharpen. Actually, maybe I will come in closer and I'll start at the top, work downwards, so you can see. That's enough. Now the inside of this lid, I'm going to put a layer of mocha over quite dark, because I think that would be a darker bit. Then this is the lightest, so this will have a little bit of darker colour on it. With that bit being lightest, put a little bit in there. And also up here, just a tad. Sort of fade it up. Like that, and then it will be dark under here. On this bit, we're going to put a dark bit there. And sort of underneath where this plant is overhanging, there would be some shadow. Like that, and then also behind this one. And then a bit coming up from the bottom here. Just like that. And the same all the way across. And of course there'll be shadow around everything that's sort of overlapping, including these. There we go. And here. Now we can move on to our second box, which is this one. I'm going to go under here. Around our little friend. And under the plants. I'm going to have to sharpen up again in a minute, I think. Yeah. Around this one. Now this edge I'm feeling like that needs to be dark. Like, there we go, and under there. Now I feel like this part of the lid, isn't it, of the box below, we'll leave that a bit. I'll go around these. And I don't think I want to go under the windows. I'm going to sort of assume that those frames are flush and there's no sill. And this one hasn't been coloured right up to the edge, so going around it is useful. Now, I have done, looking at both of these, I'm wondering whether one side should be a bit darker than the other to make it look more like, just looking at my other items. Yeah, I'm going to make this side a little bit darker just by going over it with a quick layer of this. Just trying to make it look a little bit darker than that side. And then the same on this one. This one we colour this way. Yeah, and the bottom one will have to come out a tad so you can see. We want to do the same thing. So on this side a bit darker. a little flaw in the paper there. It's a little line. It happens sometimes. I've even had it happen in quite expensive books, so not necessarily reflective of the paper, though I suspect it's more likely to happen on a cheaper paper. There we go, put that bit in there. Now I'm going to do this sort of outliney thing again. We'll put a bit of shadow on the worm. It's very loud, someone putting stuff in their recycle bin. I guess people wait till they've got a lot, but it all sounds like so loud. I guess some people have a sort of recycling bin in their kitchen, which I do for my card, but not for my bottles, glass and stuff. Because I didn't want to have another bin to have a plastic bag in. So I have my food waste in one with a compostable bag. I have my general rubbish in one, and then my other bin has cardboard in, so it doesn't need a bag. Cardboard and paper. It's amazing how much you can dispose of in a couple of weeks. Like cereal packets, food wrappers, newspaper, all sorts of things. I heard a van door earlier, and I was hoping that it was the van that's been parked in our lay-by for a month. I was hoping it was being moved. Unfortunately it wasn't. It was probably just some delivery person. It's time to sharpen the pencil again. Now we're just going to go around this little bit, and then we're going to do a little bit more shadow higher up. It's under the lid here. There would definitely be quite a dark shadow. There we go. Now these boxes have lines and things on. We could emphasize those more. We could use a different colour, couldn't we? Okay, so I am thinking what brown. I think the oak could be a good one. There it is. I'm going to sharpen it really sharp because we're going to be going over some of these lines to emphasize the sort of wood grain. So we want to make sure we are only emphasizing the lines now. I'm going over the ones that are drawn here already. It might be hard for you to actually see what I'm doing, but you don't really need to, because I'm just going over the lines that are here, just to try to emphasize them a little bit. And if there are any shadows that you've drawn in that you feel need a bit more colour, this is the time to do it with this pencil. You can add a little bit more if you wish. Just got daydreaming then about my boy's birthday tomorrow. I didn't put in any shadow under here. I'm just going to go back to the mocha and do that so it matches. So just under here. That's better. yeah, I don't know what time. My one son will want to be up early, I expect, and my other one won't want to be, but they're used to that. The one will be able to play his new computer games anyway. He won't need to wait for his brother. Be cruel, wouldn't it? But they haven't got masses to open. They've got cards from their grandparents and from us, and a few. I bought them a few bits to go with their main presents, but not much. I cut back on presents this year, really, because husband working part-time and things like that, just making sure that financially, because once I buy a birthday present for one of my nieces or nephews, it's actually my nephew's birthday in April. Whatever I spend on him, I spend on the others. Although actually I usually determine it on what I spend on my dad, but I usually spend a bit more on him than the little kids. It depends. I sort of think these occasions are for children, but on the other hand, you know, birthdays, Christmases, but on the other hand, they tend to get more. So it's always a little bit hard to know quite what to do. I'm just going to put some shadow along here because I didn't do that with the mocha. Thinking if I do that with this one, it'll stand out a bit more. You might not want to bother with this. You might think that's taking a long time, I can't really see it. Or you might think, oh yeah, that makes a big difference, I'll make sure I do it. It's very personal when it comes to what you like and dislike. I'm not entirely convinced it's making a huge difference. But obviously now I've started, I've got to finish. Whose catchphrase was that? I started so I'll finish. Was that was the mastermind, wasn't it? Magnus Magnuson. That's right. When he when they ran out of time in the quiz, you know, they'd have a limited amount of time to answer questions for. A buzzer would go and he would say, I've started so I'll finish. If he started a question, and they would be able to answer it. The questions were always quite hard. The specialist subjects were always so obscure that you wouldn't be able to answer any of them normally. It's like, you know, model for teas between X and Y date, or kings and queens of England, or things that we should know. Just going to sharpen up for the last bit. Or it might be a particular book series which you've never read, or life and times of some person that you've never heard of. Or even if you have, you still won't know. What food did they consume when they were stuck on this boat in blah da da date and waiting for rescue or something? I don't know. It's always very obscure. Everyone always wanted to do things like Harry Potter, but the questions would be so difficult. You know, even people who've read the books a few times would struggle. You have to really learn it back to front. But I think it, and the general knowledge, it wasn't as hard as University Challenge, but still hard. Right, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of colour here because it looks a bit pale. There we go, and I'm going to sit back, have a look, see if I've coloured it all. I think I have. Yeah, I think I am done. So there is our little thing. I think that one, this video went on a bit longer than the last one, but not too much longer. but we've got the 2 done, because I was thinking I've got to get 2 done because I've got to get my completed pages out. In fact, there still isn't room for it, but never mind. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and happy colouring.